Hello, I'm Betty and I'm the Victorian Coordinator for Youth Neuro Australia. I feel really lucky to be joined by Marge, who has recently lost her husband to MSA, and it is such a pleasure to be able to talk to you about your experiences and hopefully get more word out there about this terrible condition and help other families and carers.
I think it goes back a long way, but whether there's any connection or not, I don't know. He had a tremor, and they sort of said it was a central nervous tremor, but it really got worse. When he used to handwrite, it was very. And he's sort of tripped a little bit, and that's how it is. Well, falling a lot more.
Yeah.
And he sort of would, like if he was mowing the lawn, he could go down in a square, but then sometimes he couldn't turn around. But maybe the main thing was the tremor.
And were they pretty constant, or did they?
Oh, the tremor was all the time. Yeah. So, and it when he was diagnosed with, they'd try and say that it was still an essential nervous tremor, but you couldn't rule out Parkinson's, and that's what it was. Well, he went to a neurologist, which he had for quite a number of years, and it didn't get any better, and it just kept getting worse. And because they upped the medication, then we tried another neurologist, but he just said the same, but it upped the medication more and more, and I thought, this is ridiculous, because he wasn't getting any better. And so we asked to see another one, and by this stage he was falling.
Wow.
It just tripped a lot, and if he put his head back too far, he'd go over. So, yeah. I think the reflexes, because she went over him. I don't know, but she went over him and had him lying down. And one of the main things that happened a lot was it affects the blood pressure.
Okay.
It drops, and that's when you. So before he was one of the last times. Well, it was the last time he went. I got the ambulance and I put him in Knox and all, but he was having a lot of trouble with the blood pressure, because he didn't have high blood pressure or anything, but it did go up every now and then, but it also dropped. And
so it's a change.
It's a change, yes, and I think that's one of the things that helped her, and being able to diagnose him in the end, like talk about, have his consultation on Skype was wonderful, because I would never have been able to get him in there. And I don't think an ambulance in the end, because it wouldn't, his body's just...
Yeah.
I don't think we really understood at first.
Okay.
You know, I just sort of...
It's another acronym out there.
Yeah, and we... Because I suppose the children, they're not children, they're adults, and they sort of said, we will deal with it. So you really need a strong family to help you. Not to help, but to understand, you know, what you're going through. You know, sort of, you can't just shrug your shoulders and get on, but you've got to be strong. And and they... And I think, like the grandchildren, I think it's a good learning curve for them. I don't think they can then go through life thinking it's a breeze.
Yes, everything is infallible. They're infallible.
Terrible.
Terrible.
When I don't say in the hospital, because I didn't talk to, he was just there, and he was under the control of the cardiologist, but then they put him into rehab.
Okay.
And nobody had really heard about it, and but they were good with him. He was over in the gully, Furniture Gully, or the Anglers, whatever it is. But then we had to, and in the end I said, I don't think I can manage him at home because of the
lifting
and also to be able to, I felt that I would be a prisoner in the house because I wouldn't be able to leave him, and at this stage I was still working. And I sort of, then I said to them there, that I didn't think I'd manage him and what can I do, and and she said, well, it was good that I recognised it, and she said because you'd end up disliking him because of the
burden.
Yes. Anyway, but then you had to find somewhere to put him, and it is amazing. They sort of say, one person she said, yes, we can have accommodate him and all the rest of it, but and when you'd tell them what they had, they sort of would say, well, I know. But they didn't really know because they didn't understand what he'd need. And in the end, one of them sort of said, that we could have him here and all. But it was like a motel room. I didn't really, it was a lot of money, which I couldn't afford. And anyhow, when we went up to Olivet, and they said, oh yes, we know. And anyhow, a couple of times that I said, you don't know, because it's just, this hand, he ended up, very paralysed in the hand. It was like this and all the rest of it. And the girl who was in charge, she got into it and sort of...
So they went out of their way to study it and learn about it.
I don't say a work, yes, that's right. And she said, I have never, heard of it. But she said, no doubt we will, as it gets sort of diagnosed more, she said we will. And so they ended up, I don't know but they treated him differently than what if he had. They all would say, oh, it's Parkinson's, and I'd say no. And that was the frustrating part.
Yes.
Really, with it all.
People can't see past the tremors and they go straight to Parkinson's.
No, we didn't, not at all. But, I worked in a doctor's surgery, so I really had one of my bosses in particular. He, if I sort of said that, what was happening with Peter, even though he really hadn't, he'd got into sort of finding out about it too, but he would sort of talk to me, and he used to, when Peter ended up in the nursing home, he used to go and see him very regularly, and was really understanding. And that was the support, and the family, we'd have it amongst ourselves. I think there was something with his stomach, his digestion, because in the end, he had to have his food all mashed up. That was another thing. Do you want to go on with another question, or?
No, it's fine.
They want to go in like in the nursing home, he was ended up, he wasn't sort of digesting it very well,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't have it all vitamised or whatever it is. So, but they always kept, like, it just wasn't like baby food, you know. It was, they had it on all different, so that at least he had. But he couldn't. He just couldn't sort of. In the end, it just kept getting worse and worse. That he could nearly choke,
Yeah.
and he was very upset that he used to like a sandwich, you know, like he liked Vegemite. You probably don't, but anyway, and his toast, he couldn't swallow that, and that was was one of the things he didn't like, not being able to have. And but they were good in as they tried to, you know, different things, and then they ended up saying that every day after lunch they'd put him to bed just to rest his body, because he couldn't get onto the bed. He couldn't, because he's in a wheelchair. We had a special we hired a wheelchair for him, and but his legs were like, they just wouldn't move, and hard to get slippers on his feet, and even then they said after lunch I could be with him for a while, and then they'd lift him and put him on the bed, and he'd go straight to sleep, because I think the body was getting very, very tired of the pain and all the rest of it, you know. So they tried very, very hard. Up until he got falling too much, he could still do a few things, but I had to make sure that, like when he was showering, I had the bathroom made that you'd walk in and all the rest of it, but it didn't last very long, because he fell over too much, and it. But I just had to, I had to take him everywhere. But then I'd been driving for a long time, because he used to get tired. But no, it just had to. He was still continent and all that when he was home here. He didn't have to worry about that. But I had to watch him, sort of thing, for him falling and all the rest of it. But that came on slowly at first, but then
very quickly.
In the end, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think to go into a nursing home was, it's a safety thing, because you can't, when he was falling and things were happening, or he used to make himself a drink, you know, a coffee or something like that, and I used to think, oh, what if he spills the hot water? But then you couldn't take that away from him, because he had to. So I think you have to think about it. It's cruel, and somebody had said to me, I'd never put my partner in, and I said, until you walked in my shoes, you can't say that, because you look at things differently. You're the protector as well as the carer. I think a lot of people think that it's not that hard, because you're with them all the time, and I think the challenge is giving up some of your time. You need time to yourself, and whether somebody came and would be to stay with him or whatever, that's good, but you've still got to come back into it again. And I think if anybody was to ask me whether you know, was it hard putting them in a nursing home, yes it was, but it was easy in the end.